Was my faith mine? Or was it my dad's? My name's Doug Hilyard, and this is my story. My story starts a lot like many of you students at Red Lion and like many Christian students across the country. I grew up in a Christian home. I like to tell people that I was actually in church before I was born. My dad was my pastor. My mom was usually the church secretary or heavily involved in the ministry, so I was always at church. And when I was old enough, I went to Christian school. And from kindergarten all the way through my senior year, and even graduated from a Christian college. For me, what made my story interesting as a student was it was so easy to hear God's word every day and to never really apply it to myself. I came to know the Lord at such a young age that all I knew was that hell sounded really bad and that Jesus was really good. I made the decision to ask Jesus into my heart in my living room when I was 3 years old. When I was 6, I started to figure out that I was a liar, and I knew that what I was taught about Jesus didn't line up with what I was doing. Being a doubtful child, a lot of you ask questions, a lot of us talk about questions in the Bible. What if we doubt our faith? What if we don't understand something? Does that mean I'm not saved? When I was 7, I think I got saved about 1,000 times just to make sure. I remember in middle school, I would hear testimonies of people that had gone through incredible things and had really tough things happen in their life, decisions that they had to make, and didn't understand why my testimony and my story wasn't that way. Why didn't I go through those things? Why didn't I go through those tough times? I had both of my parents in my home my entire life. I had a brother and sister who loved the Lord. My sister was the one who led me to Christ. And so for us, I felt like my story was weak. I felt that there was nothing really special that God had done in my life. As I got into high school, I started to realize that a lot of the students around me didn't have the answers that I'd been given. They'd never been taught all about Christ and mercy and grace, and there was questions that they would start to ask me that I knew the answers to. And I never understood that. I never understood what a privilege that was in my life, and again, that was grace. Going into my senior year, I was not in full rebellion, but pretty close. I was 17, going on 18 years old, got my license. Like many of you, anticipating that middle school, you have a lot longer to wait. But with that privilege and those opportunities came opportunities to mess up a lot more. And even in those years, though, I was faced with split-second decisions to go places that I shouldn't go, to be with people that I shouldn't be with, and to do things that I knew were against what God would have me to do. With the added pressure of having a dad as a pastor, something always kept in my mind that if I messed up, this messes up my dad. This could mess up my dad's ministry. And I still didn't realize that my faith had to be mine. It couldn't be my parents. It couldn't be my church's. It had to be mine. When I went to college, I had a roommate one year who spoke up to me and said, "Doug, you're not your dad. You have to decide who you're going to be and who Jesus wants you to be, not who your dad wants to be, not who your mom wants to be." That really started to impact me, and I spent the next 3 years really figuring out what that looked like in my life. And I wasn't who I thought I was. I wasn't as grounded in God's Word as I had always thought that I would be. And hardships and things that faced my friends and myself really made me stop and look at my faith and see what God was trying to do in my life. Had really never done anything crazy, never done anything wild, And God kept me on this straight and narrow, and I still wondered why my testimony, my story, I thought that was weak, and I thought that somehow nobody'd want to hear my story. Who wants to hear about a goody two-shoes that grew up in a Christian home and did everything right? And I did not understand that God was being gracious to me. Whether you think your story is just not that interesting and you can't see the things in your life that make for a greater and interesting testimony, for me it was looking back and seeing grace. It was seeing split-second decisions that I didn't make, places that I could have gone that I didn't go. Didn't make any sense that I made the right choice. And so now I look back at the legacy that my dad left me, and the shoes that I have to fill aren't shoes to fill at all. They're new steps that I can leave for those behind me. I can take the tools that I was given by him and add them to the story that God's already started to write for me. And I can pass that on to my children and to students. My name's Doug Hilyard, and that's my story.